I feel like it was a couple weeks ago that Nick Sirianni was telling us how competitive, how aggressive his training camp is going to be. He's a damn liar.
Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Fly, Eagles flying, you on the team. Touchdown, time to get Jalen this ring. You don't really want to start a thing. This a bird gang nation, baby. It's a Philly thing. Hater, and you looking like you type trash. I'm just here calling on Philly the podcast. And we can call a man dog or watch Miles score off the handoff. Rest of the division, your man saw Jackson like Deshaun, hunting like Randall. Season here, early time to do them in. Your boy Philly Fresco. Thanks for tuning in.
What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Joe Castro, aka Philly Fresco, and it is Philly the podcast, man. So I want to quickly talk about this training camp day. Very boring day, and the Eagles have tomorrow off. But we are going to talk about some of the news that happened. Some things did come up, some unfortunate, some good. So we'll get into all that. But before we do, be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, join the family. We're trying to hit 3K. We would love to have you guys on that ride. So let's get into it, man. So the Eagles were supposed to have their third day of padded practice. They ended up not padding up. So they were out there in just shorts and jerseys, no hitting, no contact. It was boring, y'all. It was boring. The only things that happened really were a couple injuries. A couple people had some good days as far as route running and defensively. So, you know, the first guy that comes to my mind is Jacoby Stevens. Shout out to Jacoby Stevens. We had him on the podcast for our interview. Definitely go check that out. But unfortunately, it seems like he is now week to week with a hamstring injury. He did not practice today. Yesterday, obviously, he came up with a very nice interception in the end zone. Was not part of the practice today. So that's something that we got to keep our eye on. Him and Zach McPherson have been, you know, people have been clamoring about them too all camp. Everybody I've talked to, everybody on Twitter, it seems like those two have really been making a name for themselves as far as the defense goes. So this is definitely a big stumbling block, but I think that it's something he can get by. Hopefully it's, you know, closer to like just a week and he'll be back with the squad, but that's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, Devontae Smith still not out there. Brandon Brooks still not out there. Another guy that we got to look out for, I should say, is Davion Taylor. We all know that he's nursing that calf injury, but it might be a little bit worse than we thought. He was seen wearing a boot at practice, so that's something we got to keep an eye on, man. You know, he's another one that was, you know, kind of showing out at practice. It's really tough to see these young guys go down so early in camp when they're making a name for themselves. But he was another one that was down. Some good news is that Alex Singleton was seen practicing with Rodney McLeod. Obviously, Rodney McLeod is nursing that ACL injury. He looks like he's in shape to be coming back maybe in the first couple weeks of the season. We'll see what happens with that. But Alex Singleton was on the COVID list. He's looking good. He's out there practicing on his own. He's around the team, which is huge news as it goes for COVID. Obviously, that's one of the main things is you can't be around the team. So seeing him back out on the field is major news. And Shaquille Taylor, the former cornerback that we had, did get waived. So it makes me think that it probably has to do with the other, right? Like Alex Singleton's probably going to join the active roster here soon. So that's good to hear. That's what you want to hear. Now, another thing that kind of popped up that is becoming a battle of running backs turned wide receivers. Apparently, Kenneth Gainwell and Adrian Killins have been seeing a lot of time with the wide receivers, doing a lot of drills with the wide receiver corps. So it looks like one of those guys might be fighting for maybe a slot position. Maybe they're just trying to refine that receiving skills out of the backfield. That's something I want people to watch because I know a lot of people like Kenneth Gainwell. I know a lot of people like Adrian Killins. So I think that that's going to be an interesting battle because they're doing the same exact thing. They look like they're fighting for the same exact role. So that was just something I know a lot of people aren't really talking about it, but that's something I'm keeping my eye on. So you guys let me know if you think, who would win out of those two. Also, Josh Sweat is an absolute animal. Jordan Mailata is an absolute animal. These guys are, day by day, their stock is rising. So it's beautiful to watch. And then, you take it down to Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni, obviously, yesterday kind of got in Jalen Reagor's ear about some mistakes that he made. And Jalen Reagor, like I said earlier in this, there were some guys making some great plays, running some great routes, and Jalen Reagor was at the forefront of it. Travis Fulgham had a couple good plays. There was a couple different, Quez Watkins had a couple good plays. There was a bunch of players that had good plays. Greg Ward even got in the mix. But when I tell you Jalen Reagor was just making play after play, he did have some drops, some give me drops. But he was getting wide open on Steven Nelson almost every play. It really wasn't even close. I think he was on Slay a couple of times, was getting open on him. He put Slay in a spin cycle on one of the routes. He did drop the ball on that one, but he was out there balling, so you assume that he'll be able to catch the ball, and you hope that he'll be able to catch the ball when game time comes. Obviously, you want to see him catch those in practice, but he's been looking good. It was probably his best day in camp so far, so that's definitely a positive. Keeping on the wide receivers, John Hightower did have an amazing catch in warm-ups. I know a lot of people saw that, but he did head to the medical tent. Towards the end of the practice, he was back out on the sideline of practice, but he was not practicing with his team. So we will see. I don't know what the injury is there. We might know. I'm recording this literally at 11:45, so we might know when they go live and do their press conferences. Hopefully it's nothing crazy, man. John Hightower has been on the bad end of this camp. He has not had the greatest of camps. So injury is definitely not going to help him here. This might cause us to go get another wide receiver. It'll be very interesting to see what happens with John Hightower. The last thing I want to talk about is probably my favorite player on this Eagles roster. You guys know it. Is Booby, man. Miles Sanders just not looking consistent. I don't want to say good. I don't want to say he's looking bad, but he's just not looking consistent. He had a fumble today in the 11-on-11 drills, which is not what you want to see, especially when you're not tackling. He's not catching the ball at a high clip. He's dropping a lot of balls still. Miles has to become more solid. He has to be more consistent if he wants to be our bell cow. I have nothing but faith in Miles Sanders that he can be a great running back, but if you can't show it in practice, I feel like this team is not going to give you the opportunity in the games to prove them wrong when you're not showing anything in practice. So I'm hoping that it's not a big deal. Boston Scott is getting a lot of catches. They've been splitting carries. Highly doubt that they're going to be splitting carries when the season starts, but Miles, you gotta get better. I need to see more out of you, man. I want Penn State players to do well, and he's scaring me. He's definitely scaring me. But you guys let me know what you think. Like I said, it was a boring ass practice, so you guys let me know any storyline that kind of popped out to you. We can talk about it more. Tonight I will be going live for the Hall of Fame game, so definitely come through, hang out. Let's talk some junk about these cow turds, and let's have some fun. But other than that, y'all know what it is, man. It is Fly Eagles Fly, and we are out here. Peace.
Everywhere. This is for
Yeah.
you.
Fly Eagles flying on the team. Touchdown. Time to get Jalen this ring. You don't really want to start a thing. This a bird gang nation, baby. It's a Philly thing. Hater, and you looking like you type trash. I'm just here calling on Philly the podcast. And we can call a man dog or watch Miles score off the handoff. Rest of the division, your man soft. Jackson like Deshaun, hunting like Randall. Season here, early time to do 'em in. Your boy Philly Fresco. Thanks for tuning